when I began to cast about a theme for this book. And I was really intrigued to discover that not only are there groups that we've heard of, like La Raza and LULAC, there are groups like MECHA, which is the Student Movement for Aztlan, and the Brown Berets of Aztlan. These are extremely radical, generally Marxist, international socialist groups, but they truly believe that they're going to take the Southwest, not necessarily to give it back to the government of Mexico City, but certainly to remove it from American control. And they're very serious.
Oh yeah.
Now they've been in colleges teaching this for 3-4 decades now. Today we're seeing the results of it. The previous mayor of Los Angeles, he was a college radical for Aztlan and other socialist causes. What was his name? Villa Rigosa. But judges and attorney generals especially across the Southwest, they're infused in this mentality. So we're not going to get a lot of help stopping this invasion when you consider that so much of the bureaucracy is now supporting the invasion.
Both
at the
absolutely.
Federal level and at the state level.
They want to see this happen. Quite clearly,
Right.
They want to see this happening. The Border Patrol agents know what's going on. They're very upset with it. And as we hear,
Absolutely.
Matt, all the time, they're trying to portray this as if this is defending children, when even by their own
Right.
statistics, they say at a very max, it's 20% that are children. And that would include people up to the age of 18. Many of those coming in, of course, are drug gang members.
And then that 18 is a matter of self-reporting. They have no ID. They say, my name is Juan Rivera, I'm from Guatemala, and I'm 18. The guy could be 24.
Yes.
I mean, how do you know? You got a skinny bantamweight Latino who's, not too beat up, could easily claim to be a teenager. There have been reports of men in their late 20s trying to get into high school. I guess it would, easy way to score the chicks or something. I don't know. Or yet, open up a new drug pipeline.
That's right. And yet we hear people like George Will saying, these are 8-year-old criminals with their teddy bears. Shame on you for wanting to send them back. I mean, that's what they're doing. They clearly do want another crisis.
George Will needs a little gang of MS-13 living at his house. They'll appreciate him. But the border, anybody should take a look at pictures of the actual border. What people don't understand is the average farmer has a better fence between two cow fields.
Yeah.
There is often no fence.
Yes.
Only when they take politicians to El Paso or San Diego do you see a fence in the background. Imagine a dangerous quarry or swimming pool where children have drowned, and there's only a great fence around 10% of it. And that's where they use a camera backdrop and say, we don't understand why kids continue to drown in the pool.
Absolutely.
But we have an unguarded border. The Border Patrol, because the border is unguarded, have to defend way in depth, 40, 50 miles back, which does several unintended bad consequences. It turns the interior of Texas and the Southwest into a war zone where actual Americans have to go through Border Patrol checkpoints, between McDonald's and work. That pisses off regular Americans, excuse me. Yeah. But also it allows the cartels to actually run the border zone. Yes. Safe houses, drop sites, all of this is completely open and free, while the children that Obama deliberately lured in like the Pied Piper, the children are actually a sympathetic shield or mask on the front of a Trojan horse.
Yes.
While the mainstream media, the liberal mainstream media, swings the cameras around to George Will's 8-year-old with a teddy bear, right behind the camera are all these tattooed gang members that are saying, "Gracias, Presidente Obama." I mean, the Border Patrol agent that was killed a couple days ago in his house, not on the job, by two grown career illegal aliens. These guys had been deported each multiple times, came back in, murdered an American Border Patrol, but he could have been any American. But the point is, these children can come across. If children can hoof it across the border, then for goodness sakes, everybody in the world can hoof it across our border, and they are.
Yes, we see increasingly, as we've reported here, they're putting up signs in Chinese in many places.
Right.
And as you're pointing out, it's not just that it's a beard as far as publicity goes to say that it's all about children. The drug cartels actually do pull children and families across in one area so they can attract the Border Patrol there and then come across in another area with the gang members, with drugs, with weapons, whatever it is that they really want to bring in. We've had our reporters down at the border. Joe Biggs has gone down there with airplanes. A fellow who lives down there flew them around to show that they don't have the fence up except in just a few areas, and it's simply a beard. Now, that was your book in 2006, where you were talking about the border collapse and the rise of La Raza and these other militant Hispanic groups that essentially descend the U.S. into chaos. You followed that up with another series in 2009, another book, part of the same trilogy, Foreign Enemies and Traitors. Tell us a little bit about that scenario.
Well, this book kicks off as a plot device. The New Madrid Fault had already broken loose, so all of the bridges on the Mississippi, the Ohio, all of these main bridges have all collapsed between Memphis and Nashville and Arkansas, all over that region. The federal government's too broke to fix it. It's much too big of a problem. It's Katrina times 100, and the South goes one way. It's sort of a plot device for dividing the country regionally. The Northeast and the Rust Belt is still heavily socialist and under the control of Washington. But the rest of the country is saying, we don't think we are going to follow the instructions of Washington, D.C. anymore. That's the setup for that. And in that middle region, the worst affected by the New Madrid earthquake, the federal government discovers that they can't send United States soldiers to shoot other Americans to enforce evacuations of entire counties and regions. Basically, Western Tennessee, between all the rivers, is cut off, and it's starving and out of water. But they don't want help, and they don't want to go to a FEMA camp. They just want to stay and try to go Amish and hang on. They're afraid that once they go on any kind of a government bus, they may never come back. Well, Americans won't fire on them to enforce these evacuation orders. So President Jamal Tambor invites in UN peacekeepers who are actually intact battalions from Nigeria or the Balkans that are willing to basically come over as mercenaries, with their expected pay being in American citizenship and land out west, after they've defeated the rebellious Tennesseans who will not submit to evacuation.
Well, Matt, we don't have much time left. You're obviously wide awake as somebody who's a Navy SEAL who has anticipated a lot of these scenarios, who's spoken out about the sorts of things that we have seen happen over and over again throughout history, that we see the government trying to pull out again. What do you see? What are your concerns about the near future? What would you recommend for people to do real quickly in just a couple of minutes that we've got?
Well, I think everybody should try to have a water source. Imagine the power going out and not coming back on. I would recommend folks read my short story that just Google. It's floating around the internet. The short story called "Alas, Brave New Babylon." But I'm afraid that we're living in a dynamite factory, and there's about a dozen fuses leading into it. It could be a cyber attack. It could be a solar ejecta from the sun. It could be a war with China, but on a computer level. It could be a computer virus that gets out of control.
It could be a real virus that gets out of control.
Could be a real virus. Yeah. But anything that shuts down the banking system will shut down the computer system, will shut down the electrical system. And we're in a very vulnerable situation where if the entire country went Katrina and there was no cavalry coming, things would spin out of control in just a matter of weeks. And folks can go to my website, enemiesforeignanddomestic.com. And on my links page, there are a bunch of my short stuff that are just floating around the internet, both fiction and nonfiction. But I recommend folks read like Dear Mr. Security Agent, which is sort of an open letter to federal law enforcement. Some of my fiction, besides Alas, Brave New Babylon, Professor Raoul X, What I Saw at the Coup. These are what I'm seeing as potential scenarios that could be playing out.
Well, I can't wait to read some of your stuff. I'm sorry I've missed it so far. As everybody is saying on the internet, it's the real page turner. It's got hundreds of interviews, and most of them 4- and 5-star interviews. Most of them 5-star reviews, rather, I should say. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for telling us what's really going on. We need to see these fictional sources because a lot of people just won't take the time to connect the dots out of the news.
Right.
Thank you very much, Matt Bracken. Well, as I said at the beginning of the interview, fiction is a great way to wake people up. This is an entertaining read. It's something you can discuss with your friends, and then you can get them to watch Prison Planet TV. With a subscription, you can show them what's really happening today in the world as we see these false flags, these efforts to engineer crises and then use them as opportunities to grow the government and to take our rights. A subscription to Prison Planet TV, if you're not a subscriber, can be shared with up to 11 other people. Simultaneously, you can all watch Alex Jones's documentaries as well as the nightly news every night. Well, that's it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern.
You've experienced and heard about the benefits of super male vitality. Now, the new formula has arrived. Introducing the new Super Female Vitality. I have specifically designed this formula to help the body naturally regulate itself without the use of artificial hormones. Key ingredients chosen from the highest quality sources. Secure your Super Female Vitality today from our limited stock at InfoWarsLife.com.
You are watching the InfoWars Nightly News, which airs 7 p.m. Central at InfoWarsNews.com. Members can share their passcodes with up to 11 other people, and your support is helping us defend liberty worldwide.